All right. I'm so pumped to be here today because actually, you know what? Last month I was at this same meetup and I saw Moritz Bauer give a talk. And his talk was all about all the lessons he learned as an entrepreneur, building different businesses. Some worked out, some didn't work out. And actually his first business was buying and reselling used servers. So he'd buy these used servers, hike them up 5 flights of stairs to the top floor of his apartment, refurbish them, add some Linux, hike them back down the stairs, go to the post office, and ship them off, and only make a few bucks. And he quickly realized that this wasn't a very smart business model. So then he switched to something digital. And he created an online reminder service where you can put things like, my grandmother's birthday is on December 4th. Send me an email the day before so I don't forget. And in theory, this is a really good idea. Unfortunately, when he launched it, it was about the same time that the iPhone came out, so everyone started putting reminders on their phone. And the reason I'm telling you this is because Moritz was lost. He didn't know what to do. Now, fortunately, he's put the pieces together and he runs a very successful business that funds his 4-hour workweek lifestyle. And one of the things that he said in his talk really struck me, and it surprised me. And it didn't surprise me because I disagreed. Actually, it surprised me because I agreed, even though our two journeys were completely different. And what surprised me was when he went over his number one lesson. From all this stuff that he did, businesses that did well, businesses that didn't do well, his number one lesson was the same exact one as mine, even though we had totally different businesses, totally different journeys. And that lesson was this: focus on building your email list. Now, how many times have you heard that, right? It's like a broken record. Everyone you ask, what should I do? What should I do? Focus on building your email list. And I'll admit, people around me get annoyed because I say it all the time. And the reason I am so into building email lists, and the same reason that Moritz gave this piece of advice, is simple. When you have an email list, you can print money. So my business and my email list are tied together. As my email list grows, my revenue grows, and one doesn't grow without the other. In fact, if tonight, for some reason, someone said, you can't have any more subscribers, the number you have now is the most you'll ever have, I would move on to a different business. Because I knew that no matter what I did, no matter how much more traffic I got or Twitter followers, this revenue number would not change. So what do you need to build an email list? Well, you need two things. You need traffic, and you need a compelling offer. Now, obviously, we don't have time to go over traffic today, but what I'm going to show you are super practical strategies to make an offer that people care about that will get them to actually stop what they're doing and hand you their email. So first, before we go over that, let's go over what not to do. So this is what most people do with their opt-in strategy. They shove a little opt-in form in the sidebar. It basically says, I hope people see it and I hope they sign up. Now, obviously, this strategy doesn't work really well, right? Because most people don't even see sidebars. There's sidebar blindness, and heat map studies have shown this. That because so many people put junk in the sidebar over the last few years, people don't even look at the sidebar. So if that's where your opt-in form is, people aren't going to see it. And even if they do, they're not going to sign up because you can't really make a compelling offer in that tiny space. So what can you do instead? Well, you need to put your offer front and center. So if you're serious about building an email list, if this is a goal for you, you can't shove your opt-in forms and pitches in the sidebar or the footer or on pages no one visits. It needs to be front and center on pretty much every page in your site. And today I'm going to show you how you can do that without being annoying. So let's just jump right into strategy number one, the feature box. So the feature box is basically when you have a blog on your site. It's a big old box that goes up at the top of the page, preferably the home page, and describes a little bit about what your site is about. So it says, I'm so-and-so, I do this and that, and you should also sign up for my email list to learn more. And in fact, my feature box converts at 7.5%. And if you have a blog, you know that most blog traffic converts at maybe 1.5% if you're lucky. But this converts at 7.5%. It's really simple. All you really need are a few things. And I'm going to walk you through an example from robwolf.com. So the first thing you need is a lot of real estate above the fold on your site. So like I said, front and center. It needs to be up there, really where it catches people's attention. It can't be one of those little forms that you can easily overlook. Now, once you have their attention, you want to put it to good use, right? And that's where you give people a little description about why they should sign up for your list. But it needs to be unique to you. It needs to give the compelling reason. So a lot of people, what they do is they say, sign up for my newsletter, get free updates, get free tips. And that stuff's kind of nice, but if you're serious about getting people to sign up for your list, you want to give them something a little bit more unique. And Rob Wolf does a great job here. He talks about that you get your free Paleo Quick Start Guide. Now, for me, that's a lot more compelling than free tips. So you want to have some unique offer that's unique to you. So rapid fire here. Let's just move on to strategy number 2, the social squeeze page. So a few months ago, I would have no business standing up here and talking about how to build an email list because I struggled. That was one thing that I really struggled with. My traffic was pretty good. Even the sales on my email list was pretty solid. But in terms of consistently turning visitors into subscribers, I was terrible. This is my conversion rate earlier this year. It's hard to read, but you can see, not very good. And flatline, no matter what I tried. And I knew that if I had a squeeze page on my site or a page that existed solely to collect emails, I would get more subscribers, right? Because that's the only reason this page exists. It converts great because you're giving people no choice. Give me your email or get out. But I didn't want to create this sort of scammy squeeze page. Who has seen this? Anyone, right? You don't want this to represent your brand, right? This looks awful, but it works. And then one day I stumbled on this page by Copyblogger called How to Write Magnetic Headlines. Anyone seen this? It's a beautifully designed page. And when you scroll down, you realize that it's actually a squeeze page to get you to sign up for a Copyblogger account. So when I saw this, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. You can make a squeeze page that looks good. And if the Copyblogger has had it up for years, it's probably working pretty well. But what really struck me, what really blew my mind, was the fact that people were sharing their squeeze page. Not only did it look good, people actually spreading this squeeze page around. That's like email list building crack. You can get people to share a page that exists solely to collect emails. There's no middleman. You don't have to create content and then hope they see your form and sign up. You're sending them right to a page that exists just to collect emails. So I added a few twists to the strategy, and I created the social squeeze page, and you can see an example of it here. And on my site, my social squeeze page converts at 21.7%. And because people like it, they share it around, just like in the Copyblogger example. I'll show you how to do that later. So to create your own social squeeze page, a squeeze page that exists solely to collect emails but actually provides value, gets people to share it, doesn't hurt your brand, the first thing you need is a topic. And your topic should have 2 things going for it. One, it needs to be in demand. So it needs to be a topic people are actively searching for. But second, this is kind of the rub, the most important thing. It needs to be something people have trouble finding information about. So there might be, for example, there might be some demand out there for low-carb recipes, right? If you're trying to lose weight, want to get fit, you want some low-carb recipes. Unfortunately, or fortunately for people looking for the recipes, they're easy to find, right? You don't need to sign up for an email list to get your hands on some recipes. They're everywhere. So in my case, I knew that there was a lot of demand for how to get higher rankings and more traffic, but I also knew that there wasn't a lot of actionable information out there on how to do it. I'm sure you can all agree if you do SEO, you know it's really hard to find good stuff. So I decided to create a case study that walked people through step-by-step how I ranked for a competitive keyword. The next thing you need is a video. So the video is what really separates the social squeeze page from that typical scammy one. So most video squeeze pages, you press play, or it plays automatically, and it says something like, hey, I'm so-and-so, you should sign up for my email list because you'll get this free ebook and all these free tips and da-da-da. It's really pitching you right away. And you're like, I don't even know you, and you're already starting to pitch me. This is totally different. This video is all about value. You don't mention your email list once. You don't mention your newsletter once. There's no call to action in the video. It's pure value. Actually, there is a call to action, and I'll get to that in a second. But your video doesn't really have to be like Academy Award winning or anything like that. You can probably tell from the screenshot, mine definitely isn't up for an Academy Award this year. I basically called my friend. He came over to my apartment in Prenzlauer Berg, and we filmed the video. Does the job. It's valuable. Maybe it doesn't win any production awards, but that's all you really need. Now, as a pro tip, when you host your video, it's actually a big decision. Now, I think this is true for your whole website, but especially for something like this. You want to use Wistia. So Wistia is a great video hosting platform. Yes, it does cost money, so if you want to spend $0 in your business, then you can't use it, but it's worth it. For this feature alone, you can use, it's called Wistia Turnstile. And that's where anywhere in your video, in the middle or at the end, this thing pops up and it basically says, if you want to keep watching, enter your email. So it's a little bit pushy, right? But it works really well. In fact, most of the emails from this page come through this. And if you want to make it less annoying, you can have a little option at the bottom that says, sorry, I'd rather not give you my email. And people will still enter their email because they don't read the whole thing. All right, so finally you need some social elements that make the social squeeze page social, right? So you need social sharing buttons and some comments. That way people can interact with the page. And it also makes it just look really different than your typical scammy squeeze page because no one's going to comment on that ugly one or share on the ugly one I showed you before. And finally, you need a form. So your form is basically, if they don't sign up from within the video, they can do so underneath. And you can see from my crazy heat map data that people look at this form over and over again as they watch the video. So they watch the video, they get a little bit bored, their eyes and cursor float down, and they see the form. And as you know, an old marketing adage, people need to see a message 7 times before they convert. The more times they see the form, the more likely they are to convert. So you want to put it right underneath that video. And when you have all this together, you have, like I said, list building crack. You have a page that people share and bring traffic to and share on social media. So they're bringing subscribers directly to you without you having to do anything. All right, so let's just gears a little bit and talk about using your About page as a squeeze page. So there's a few reasons you should do that, but first I just want to find out, because I've talked about this particular strategy a couple times, and I found one person that's actually used their About page as a squeeze page. Who here has an opportunity for someone to opt in on their About page? Whether it's a company About page or a blog About page? One guy. Oh, we have another one in the back. So 2, 3. Sorry, I didn't see you. So yeah, I mean, there's a couple reasons you want to consider adding some opt-in forms to your About page. The first of which is that people probably love going to your About page. If you can check your Google Analytics, I guarantee you that your About page is one of the most visited pages on your website, just because that's how people tend to interact with websites. They love going to About pages. But you don't just get anyone that visits your About page. It's people that like you. People that click on that link to your About page, click on it because they like what you're about. No one reads something online, thinks, this is crap. I wonder what idiot wrote this. And they click on an About page. No, they click it because they want to learn more about you. And you just have to give them an opportunity. So for example, on my About page, I have 2 forms. I haven't optimized them, haven't done any tests. They're not even based on any real good conversion science or anything. They're just 2 forms. I have one in the middle, one at the end. And they convert at 6% all day long. Now, I'm sure I could bump that up with some tests, but I'll take 6% because I know if I didn't have any forms, it'd be 0%. So I'll take 6. All right, controversial topic. Let's talk about it. Let's get real. Pop-ups. Who hates them? Right? They're annoying, right? Never use them on my site. Nope. That's how I felt a couple months ago. I was talking to my friend Noah Kagan about my conversion problem that I mentioned earlier. And in case you don't know Noah, he's a veteran entrepreneur. He's worked for Facebook and Mint.com. He's been in the marketing game for a long time, so I knew he'd give me some Yoda-like wisdom to my problem. Here's what he said. Dude, you need to use a pop-up. So my first reaction was no, obviously, right? I'm not going to be the pop-up guy. But I decided to give it a 24-hour trial just to make him happy. So I could say, I put it up, I tried it, it didn't work, it wasn't for me. You know, at least I can say I tried, and I took his advice. So I created a very simple pop-up using SumoMe, which is a free plugin. Basically, just something I kind of thought of. I just wrote kind of freehand. I didn't even think of what people might want to see, just something obvious. My conversion rate was about 4% in that 24-hour period. And needless to say, I've never taken the pop-up down after that. Now, I've come to kind of figure out how to make the pop-up more powerful and less annoying, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you're using exit intent pop-ups. So if you're not familiar with exit intent pop-ups, it's kind of like they sound. When you're going to leave a site, a pop-up appears. And when if you're just hanging out and reading, it doesn't interrupt you. Those are the pop-ups you really hate, right? You're reading something, you're getting into it, and then boom, pop-up. This is very different. The person's going to leave anyway, so you might as well make a pitch. So for example, if you're at americastestkitchen.com and you're about to leave, get the newsletter. And this doesn't appear as you're reading a recipe. Because I cook a lot, I know it's annoying when you're trying to read a recipe and all of a sudden a pop-up is in front of you and you have wet hands and you have sauce in your hands and you're trying to touch the laptops. It's happened to me a lot. So this only happens if you're going to leave, so you might as well pitch them. You also want to make sure your pitch is targeted. I've seen this a lot lately. This is what not to do. Join 25,000 subscribers. For some reason, when people get 20,000 subscribers, they think that all of a sudden that their unique selling proposition is that they have 25,000 subscribers. And for me, and I think for you, that's not a compelling offer, right? So if you're going to interrupt someone with a pop-up, you want to make it count, and you want to make it laser targeted. So for example, on my blog, if you're reading this keyword research guide, I don't interrupt you and say, hey, sign up for my newsletter. I don't interrupt you at all because it's exit intent. But even if you're going to exit, I still don't say, hey, sign up for my newsletter, or I have X number of subscribers, right? Because I know no one really cares. In fact, I've done some testing on this. I don't have this in the presentation, and I've tested showing subscriber numbers, and it actually decreases conversions. And I saw a case study from Derek Halpern a few years ago that found the same thing. So subscribers numbers is not really a powerful motivator to get people to sign up. Anyway, you're going to leave. You had enough of the guide. And you get this pop-up. It's a PDF version of that guide. So it's super laser targeted to what you're reading, and as you might imagine, it converts great. In fact, I've created unique pop-ups for pretty much every post on my site. So as you're reading a post, you get a pitch in the pop-up that's directly related to what you're reading, because that's what you're interested in at that moment, right? You don't go to a site and be like, oh, I want to sign up for the newsletter. No, you want to get more traffic or get more subscribers or whatever it is you're reading about. All right, last strategy. Save the best for last. The content upgrade. So like I said, a few months ago, conversions were a big problem for me. Just seemed like I tried all this stuff, and some of the things helped, like the social squeeze page and the about page, using that as a squeeze page, and the feature box. These things helped a little, but they didn't make a huge difference. So, but I had this one post that just didn't seem like no matter what I tried, conversions were flat. And the shame was that this actually got more traffic than any other page on my site. This page alone generates 15,000 visitors a month. That's more than most websites. Unfortunately, a lot of it was pretty much useless because everyone was walking away without giving me their email. It's 0.4%. So when I used the content upgrade, overnight, it went to 5.4%. So less than 0.5% to 5.4% overnight with this one strategy. Probably don't want to know what it is. So the first thing you want to do is look at your content and think of, on one post, and think of what could make this better? What could I add to this that would add some value, even if it's really great? So in my case, people were basically telling me what they wanted to see. So Justin said, basically, it's too overwhelming. What are kind of the cliff notes here? And Kristen was saying, do you have a PDF version of this thing? Because I don't want to have this tab open for the rest of my life as I do work. I want this as a reference. So I combined those two things, distilled some of the information, created a checklist, and this checklist was born. The next thing I did was pitch it in the post. So again, remember I said front and center. This is pretty front and center. I have a little yellow box on the intro that pitches a checklist, and as you scroll to the bottom, there's another one. It's like a big download icon. So I kind of replaced the typical conclusion you have in blog posts. It's like, well, there you have it. That's Google's ranking factors. Hope leave a comment. No, I replaced it with something that's going to add value to them and also build my email list. And when someone clicks on one of those two links, a lead box appears. So you don't have to have an ugly form in your content. You can just have a little discrete link, and the only people who see the form are the people that click on it, and they're interested. And I've found that about, depending on the form, 70% of the people that click on the link end up filling it out. And to put this in perspective in some numbers, over, I think, a 2-month period or 3-month period after I added this, I generated 3,590 subscribers, and each subscriber is worth about $12. So that one strategy and that one post over 2 months is worth $43,000. And if you look at the cost, I had to pay $90 to get the checklist design, $282 for the lead pages, which is a lead box link. So the profit is pretty much 100%. Pretty powerful. And I've since added this to pretty much every other page on my site, and my conversion rate has increased by 180% in about 6 weeks. So in case you're wondering, maybe this wouldn't work for me because I'm in whatever niche, actually a lot of readers have reached out to me and said, this works great. Josh from My Golf Tutor had a very similar problem. He had a page that was getting a ton of traffic, wasn't converting, so he decided to create a simple checklist about golf. And overnight, it also converted. Went from about 0.5% to 3% overnight. So that's it. Thank you. All right.
5 minutes of Q&A with Brian.
How do you get $12 a pop for your email?
I sell an online course. So how much you make per email, yeah, it depends on how well you monetize the back end. So
basically you're saying when you have 1,000 emails, you see a certain number of people buy your online course, which is already made, and so you just have a statistical average that lands you at $12 an email.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
About your oh, yeah, crap, no, I mixed up the question. Hold on, give me a second. Yeah, if you offer like a freebie, right? I mean, I have friends who tell me like you shouldn't offer a freebie because it increases your subscriber rate, but a lot of those people are not interested in your actual content, they just want to get the freebie. So you're going to have a lot of big numbers on your list that are actually not like responsive when you send out. What do you say to that?
That's a fair point. Of course, the most valuable subscriber you'll have is the one that actually signs up to that awful sidebar opt-in form that I showed you before, right? Because that person really loves you. Like if they're gonna look at your sidebar, see this ugly form, doesn't have any pitch, and still enter their email, that person's a huge fan, right? So that's gonna be a really valuable subscriber, as opposed to someone who visits your site, you offer some compelling checklist or a bonus area like I do, that subscriber is worth a lot less. There's no doubt about it. But I'll take a subscriber that is maybe a little less motivated than no subscriber at all. And also, it's on you at that point. Like a lot of people use that as an excuse. I mean, once you have someone on your list, it's on you to turn them from maybe like a passive subscriber who only signed up for the resource to a loyal fan that's going to buy your products and services. So I'd say to answer your question, I would say yes, it's a kind of inevitability, but it's all about how well you monetize them once you have them on your list, how much value you provide to them once they sign on.
And quickly on that, do you ask just for the email list or the name as well?
Just the email.
It's better than asking for two things.
Well, I mean, better is subjective. I think you get more emails with just the email, of course. The name does lower conversions a little bit, but I kind of wish a lot of times when I send out emails that I had the name. It's nice to put it in subject lines and in the email or whatnot, but it also depends on your niche. Like, if you're in a sophisticated niche like internet marketing or some B2B, people know that it's not their name and they can see that you're using some sort of thing, but a lot of people who are maybe B2C, they kind of like the fact that it says like, hi Susan, whatever. So it kind of depends. I prefer just to go simple with the email. Mm-hmm.
What do you do when you get people as subscribers to your newsletter? What do you do to actually convert them in email? Because I feel like most emails I just boom straight to trash. But you get to something to get people to actually open your email and then convert.
Well, there's a lot to that. But the short answer is I provide a lot of values and tell stories. So, and also I've studied a lot of the science of product launches. So part of the monetization is what you do in between. Like I have a couple launches throughout the year, but between it, that's my focus now. And I've been not so good at sending out a lot of valuable emails. I've sent out quite a few, but now I'm trying to ramp it up. So, it's really about providing a ton of value through storytelling to get them to kind of train people to open your emails in a way. And then when you have a pitch, they're not going to put them straight into the trash. They're going to be like, wow, this guy's been actually hooking me up for a while. Let's see what it's about. They may not buy it, but a lot of them will. And if you I think some people treat their email list kind of shitty, and I just don't like to do that. That's a big part of it. Matt?
So the people coming into your list, they may have came from one of many different pages, downloading different checklists. So you could say that they all have a little bit different intent for what they wanted. Do you then try to segment those out, or do you just throw them all in the same bucket and come up with a creative funnel that kind of speaks to everybody?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was tempted to kind of separate them out and be like, okay, this person signed up for this checklist, so they must be interested in that. But I've come to realize that most of the people that sign up for the list, it's the same guy on a different day. That's kind of what I've come to the conclusion of. So someone who signs up for like an on-page SEO checklist, it's the same guy who signs up for like some viral marketing checklist. It's just a different day, or the same woman, right? So it's the same person. It's just they're looking for a different thing at that moment. So I don't try to overthink it and be like, oh, they signed up for this, so they must be interested in that. Because it's actually a huge fallacy a lot of people make, and they love using their fancy Infusionsoft software to do this. But actually, if you have a keyword that's ranking really highly, you're going to get more subscribers from that page, right? But it doesn't mean that more people are interested in that. It just means you're getting more traffic to that page. So I think that it's possible to overthink it. If I could segment in a way that made sense, but for me, I think from most people's sites, it's the same type of people. Unless you're covering totally different topics, then it might make sense to slice them up. But I don't.
Do you have in mind what your with tier video opt-in rates are?
Oh, yeah, I did the math once. Yeah, it was like 15%. So pretty solid. It depends on where you put it in the video. So obviously the later you put it, the less people even see it. So if you put it earlier, it's a little annoying, right? So you want to provide someone some value first, so then they're like, oh, is this cool? And then when they get it, it's like, well, okay, I'll give you my damn email. You don't want it to be like they're watching 3 seconds and it's like, give me your email. Because the opposite, it defeats the purpose of what the page is about. But that's a good question. But it converts great. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How many emails do you send out to all those people, and on average, what's the conversion rate for the emails? Like, I mean, you already said it's different depending on how you wrote it, but on average, can you say something?
So how many emails do I send out?
Like how many times can I send it out, and then how good does it come? Every month, every?
You mean for like a sales email?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I do, my business is set up a little differently because I have product launches throughout the year. So I kind of have like time periods where I'm just providing pure value. And then I have a launch where I hard sell a little bit, and then I go to pure value. But Moritz who's here, he has, or he was here, he has more of a model where he's selling all the time, but also providing value at the same time. So he'd have better math on that sort of thing.
So you're not always selling the whole
No. Yeah, so most of the year, only like 5 days launch, and then just value, then 5 days launch. So there's 2 different ways. Either way works. This is one I prefer.
All right. One last question.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Do you use YouTube as part of your SEO strategy, or if not, why not?
Not really, just because I've had some success with it, but I just haven't had a lot, and I kind of put a lot of effort into it, didn't see a lot of return, so I'd rather just double down on what works, and that's kind of text-based stuff. All right.
Thanks so much, Brian.
No problem. Thanks.